Appendix 1. 3 kinds of craving. Some aspects of the 3 kinds of craving can be equated with Freud's concepts of libido, life instinct, and death instinct, although they are not exactly the same. Kama tanha can be defined as a craving for the 5 chords of sensuality, as a delight in sensuality, or as a craving for the 6 sense objects. Bhavatana is accompanied by a view of existence, bhavaditi, i.e. an eternalist view, sasataditi. Vibhava tanha is accompanied by annihilationist view, uchedaditi. Kama tanha comprises all remaining forms of kama. According to the Buddhist teachings, the attachment to sensuality is more deep-seated and fundamental than an attachment to self or the view of existing as a distinct self. For example, in reference to the 10 fetters, samyojana, self-view, sakayaditi is abandoned by stream enterers, whereas sensual lust, kamaraga, is abandoned by non-returners. In reference to the 4 kinds of grasping, the attachment to the idea of self, attavadupadana, equals sakayaditi, is abandoned at the stage of stream entry, whereas grasping onto sensuality, kamupadana, is abandoned at the realization of arahantship. Kamupadana includes attachment to fine material form, ruparaga, and attachment to immateriality, aruparaga. Appendix 2. Harm of craving. If craving along with conceit, mana, and fixed views diti replaces chanda and overwhelms the mind, it can cause severe suffering and harm for a virtuous person. For example, as a consequence of a person's love of goodness and purity, craving may establish an attachment to personal virtue until the person feels anxious about protecting his virtue, fears a stain on his character, and fears other people's misunderstandings. His suffering over these matters is greater than what most people feel. This anxiety is related to what Western psychologists describe as a guilt feeling. Some people have an intense desire to build a virtuous society. If they are unable to fulfill their ambitions or they meet obstacles, they feel angry and cling to their personal opinions more tightly, becoming more headstrong and willful. Alternatively, they have a one-pointed mission to revolutionize and improve society, but turn to violent means in order to eliminate and purge those people whom they view as uncooperative, acting out of anger without any concern for these other people's well-being. Chanda, that is dominated by tanha, mana, and diti, can thus lead to violence. Highly competitive social systems, work systems, and lifestyles promote selfishness and lead people to act in a way that corresponds to a craving for becoming bhavatana. When such systems are implemented in a society in which there is a high degree of zeal and a will to act, chanda, many aspects of the society will progress rapidly. The downside, however, is that these competitive systems will lead to problems like stress, anxiety, and mental illness. When such systems are implemented in a society lacking wholesome desire, they tend to generate immoral behavior, confusion, and corruption. I use the term tend to here because one must consider other causes and conditions for behavior. Appendix 3. Buddha's main attributes. The Buddha's main attributes are considered to be twofold. One, wisdom panya, leading to the state of being a Buddha, Buddha Bhava, to being a refuge unto oneself, Attanata, and to the completion of personal well-being, Attahita Sampatti, and two, compassion, karuna, leading to the accomplishment of the Buddha's deeds, Buddha Kicca, to being the saviour of the world, Lokanata, and to living a life of benefiting others, Parahita Patipati. In some of the commentaries, purity Visuddhi is distinguished as a separate attribute, but generally purity is considered to be a part of wisdom, because it is an automatic result of enlightenment, and therefore this quality is usually not designated as a separate attribute. In the Vajira Buddhitika, the Buddha's deeds, Buddha Kicca, are stated as twofold: work that is done with knowledge, Jnana Kicca, and work that is done with compassion, Karuna Kicca. The Buddha's and the Arahants' wisdom is free from conceit and selfishness, and their compassion is free from attachment and grief. The compassion of unawakened persons is still a pseudo-compassion, because their minds are not completely clear and bright. When they feel compassion, they are still personal attachments and affections, along with a sense of sadness and grief. With the division of Buddhism in two main schools, the Theravada tradition is considered to emphasize wisdom, while the Mahayana tradition emphasizes compassion.